All right, so if the template map pops up, you want to do inches, feet, and inches. Open it up. Let me just expand it so it fits my screen well. All right, and open it this way. A little bit more room to see. And we're going to be only drawing in the top view because we're just drawing flat 2D lines. So I'm going to go ahead and get started by drawing a rectangle with my grid snap-on and setting up my first part here. So first I want to make sure my grid is set up the way I've got it here. So go to properties or settings and go to grid. And you want to make sure your grid line counts are 200 and you've got minor grid line spacing of 12 inches and major every 5 minor grid lines. So every 5 feet, you've got a grid line. This is going to give you a good positioning rule of thumb to be able to kind of make sure that you're drawing everything to a proper scale. So next, I'm going to make sure grid snap is turned on down here with the PC, up here if you have a Mac, and then I'm going to draw a rectangle. And from my grid, I'm going to start to draw out, and I'm going to do a 20 apostrophe for 20 feet, enter by 30 apostrophe, enter. And that's going to give me one section of my design. I'm planning on doing a cross pattern, and my design is based off of a mixture of Catholic Church usage of the portico, apse, transept, and left and right transept, just as an architectural trope. But then I'm going to make it more symmetrical and a little more minimalistic with looking at the work of artists like Donald Judd for the design. So yeah, this would be stuff that I'd put on my mood board. I'd put the image of the Catholic Church that I'm going to be using, which is actually St. Peter's Basilica. I'd put some Donald Judd for the style of the building, and then I'd throw on there some of my artwork. So any of the stuff portfolio-wise you're planning on putting into the gallery space, go ahead and take some images of that and make it kind of like a Pinterest type of a mood board, if you will. And that should influence the style and design. So I've already kind of done some sketches just on a sketchbook that also I'm including in my mood board if I were turning it in. But for you, at this point, you also need a floor plan. So I'm going to do a 30-foot by 20-foot rectangle, and just whatever your floor plan is, negative 30-foot by 20-foot, whoops, by 20 inches. Negative 30-foot, enter, by 20-foot, enter. Cross pattern. I'm just making this cross pattern real quick here. I'm not focused too much on this because your design could be different. You could be using rectangles or polylines. And hopefully you all know how to draw rectangles by now. But if you wanted to use polylines, just draw whatever shape you plan on using. A polyline is great because it just is a continuation of the line. And as long as you're paying attention to the grid on here, you should be able to keep it kind of projected in the right direction. But with polylines, you of course still want to make sure, okay, I'm going to draw this section at 20-foot, enter, click. 30-foot, enter, click. 25-foot, enter, click. So you're controlling how long your lines are. 50-foot, enter, click. And this is going to make your floor plan if you were using polylines instead of rectangles, which is what I'm using. Okay, so next I'm going to trim out the center section here. So I'm going to select the whole object because I'm going to use all of these lines as trim lines and hit enter. And then I'm going to click and just kind of delete these lines out of the middle here. And then the next step is I'm going to draw 2 domes that I'm going to put on either side. So I'm going to draw a circle and find my midpoint, make sure my snaps are on here, find, oh, mid's not on, near's annoying, and I'll leave it there. So draw it out, and with an R, enter for radius, which would be half of it, right? And I believe my radius is, what is it? let's just do diameter. D, enter for diameter, and 26 feet. Okay. So I'm keeping everything to the right scale. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and trim out this section. So I'm gonna use these two as cutting blades, enter, and trim out that section. And then I'm gonna trim out this center part here. So that's my cutting blade there, and then trim out this section here. So yeah, the trim, first you set your cutting blades, which you're gonna use to cut the object, and then you hit enter, and then you select the inner parts that you wanna cut out. Okay, all good. So next I can just delete this side, and then I'm gonna go ahead and mirror this over. So M-I-R-R-O-R, enter, midpoint, straight down, and that's gonna give me my basic outline. So I'm gonna go ahead next and join this all together to one piece. And then I'm actually going to, no, you know what? I'm gonna explode it again. I don't need to join it yet, sorry. I'm going to create a spot where my wall is going to be. So I'm going to offset this line, or my door, 11 feet, enter, click. And then I'm going to go 8 feet, enter. Then I'm going to do an 8-foot door here. And I'm just going to leave those lines there. Join everything else together. So all of my walls are joined together. Of course, you don't join these two puzzle pieces here, or type the word join, all one piece. And then we can go ahead and offset this wall structure outwards. And I want to do a distance of 10 inches. So 10, enter, click. So that gives me my, cinder block wall, or whatever wall I'm going to be using, 10 inches thick. Homes, residential, more like 6 inches, but 10 inches will work for this one. So next I'm going to trim this section out. So I'm going to select these as cutting blades, enter, trim that out, enter. And then if I want to make, this part in the middle here, yeah, I can use the trim tool again. But another thing that's kind of a nice trick is using fillet. So fillet, not fillet edge, fillet just by itself is for 2D lines, and setting my radius at 0. So 0, enter. And then if I click on this and this, it breaks that end. This and this breaks that end. And then I can do the same thing here. You don't want to go this way because then it breaks it that way. But you got to go inside. And that trims that out. Next, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my grid snap and draw a rectangle with my door. And I'll just go from that point to that point and then grab it and move it over. Rectangle for the door. And if your snaps are getting in the way, you can always disable them really quickly. Okay. That is our gallery structure here. And this is what we'll use to build off of later. If you want to put some of your windows in, show skylights, any of the other details you want to go into a little bit further, go ahead. But the key thing I want to do next is dimension this thing off and add hatch marks. Hatch marks in architecture kind of define where the walls are. So I'm going to type the command hatch, enter, and then select the curves that I want the hatch to, because these are all joined together, I can just select those two right there. But you want to select all the lines you want the hatch marks to be in, and you have to have your object completely closed in order to be able to hatch. So if there are missing lines, actually this line here and this line here need to be joined together, those little parts of the door, because it has to be completely solid. And if it's not, it won't hatch, and most likely it's not going to be able to be made 3D. If you're having problems doing that, go ahead and use the fillet tool, the radius of 0, and go around and just click on all of your corners to make sure that you've got them touching each other. What I mean by touching, of course, is line to line, butted up to each other, coming to the same common vertex. Okay, once you've got that, we can hatch these two, enter, and then it brings up the hatch window. And yeah, you could leave it completely black if you wanted to, but I actually like to use hatch lines. Change the scale, maybe I need it like 50 even. Yeah, it looks better. And then select the direction here. Hatches are used for all different types of things. There are different hatches for concrete. There's different hatches for indicating different materials and stuff. We're not going to worry too much about that, but it's just good to know that there's such a thing as hatch. And I'll go ahead and rotate this 45 degrees to give us nice lines going that direction. And then hit OK. So this is our hatched out floor plan. And I can start to do my layout now. So again, layout. Type that. And this time we're doing 24 by 36, so 36-inch wide, 24 inches tall, and go ahead and hit OK. And then go up to view and layout to add a detailed view. And I'm just going to fill up the whole page with this detailed view. Okay. And you can see that it is now scaling my hatch dimensions here, which I do not want. So if I click on the hatch, though, I should be able to change this maybe to 1. Yeah, okay. In my properties window over here. Okay, that looks good. Next, we want to do dimensions. So dimensions, again, you always think about, are you in layout space or paper space? Double clicking inside makes you in a detail view. I guess they call it detail views in here. And you can switch with the little arrow back to the layout view. You want to make sure all of your snaps are on and maybe center. These snaps are all pretty good. Don't put project on though. And then we'll go ahead and start doing dimensions. So let's see what our dimensions are looking like out of the gate here. So I type in dim, enter, and I do the interior of the walls because who cares about the exterior, right? And so we go from end to end in paper space. And my dimensions are looking pretty good here. But if yours aren't, remember, go to properties, annotation styles, make sure foot and inches is here. If not, you might have to import it. Click it, and then go to the little down arrow next to annotation styles, switch to foot and decimal, and just copy mine. Model space scale is set as 96, so the adjusted text height is actually 12 inches in the layout space, but when you bring that into our scale, it's 12 inches. So go ahead and hit OK, and then make sure fonts, heights, all of these things, just kind of match them up. Make sure they look like mine, because mine look pretty good. Arrows, I use architectural ticks, arrow size, and then I have the length in units, just copying all of this. These are the units I use, and liters, Okay. So it should look kind of like mine. And then I'll just continue to do more details. So dim, enter, and grab there to there, 20 feet. And then where is the door located? How big is the door, right? What is the diameter of this circle? And you can do that by typing diameter and selecting point on a curve. Or is it measure? Or dim diameter? There it is. Yeah, sorry, dim diameter. Select a curve, and I'm going to select this interior one here. And you can see you get the diameter of 26 feet, which is what we set that at. And diameter gives you the center mark and a little dimension with a leader pointing to the circle there. Very nice. So those are kind of some of the basics. Maybe I'll also want to do the overall dimensions of the object. Those tend to be really important. And pull it all the way up to the top. And if there are things that are repeating, it's not as necessary to do all of those dimensions. But I'll go ahead and do this one. Oops, inside, just to show that they're all the same. And then how long is this wall? Okay. All right, and then the next thing I want to do is actually change the scale. Actually, I should not have done that. I should have changed the scale first. Dang it. Okay, because this is going to mess everything up. So you want quarter equals a foot. Did it resize them all right? Yeah. Good. Okay. I guess by default I had it in a 1/4 inch equals a foot. So that is a pretty decent scale. And if your object is not working there, working at that size, you might have to go even bigger and do 1/8 equals 12. And that gives you a smaller footprint on it. Or you can do a larger paper size too. So I'll just bring it back. I thought it was fine at this size. And then I'm going to go ahead and move these up a little bit. Oops. Shift click to grab both of them, just so it's not in my sight line there. Okay. And then I don't think that the dimension sizes are quite big enough. So I'm going to increase the scale of those. And the way I can do that is actually by going to Edit, Select Objects, Dimensions, and changing it through there. Right here. And go into Properties. And we've got dimension properties right there. And I can do 0.25. And that actually is a little bit more legible. Okay. Or select them all individually and go 0.25. Or go up to our units, properties, put architectural, height, 0.25, apply. And that applies it to all of those dimensions. So then you want to maybe do some text. And you'll say plan view 1/1/4 inch equals 1'0" Control U for underline. And then I'm going to actually make this thing 5, a little bigger. Okay. Boom. And so there we've got a floor plan with dimensions on it, and then you'll also have your mood board. And those are the first steps to designing this thing. And of course, you'll turn it in by exporting it as a PDF. So File, Save As with a PC, a PDF, or export to a PDF or print to a PDF if you've got a Mac. Okay, thank you very much.